Hey there, this is Akshit Madan and welcome back to a new video. And this video is going to be exciting because in this video we are going to learn both full stack web development plus we are going to learn a DSA concept called HashMap. So as I told in the last video that I'm creating a complete free series on DSA plus dev so that you not only just learn full stack concepts or you not only just waste time in learning DSA and not actually know how to use them, but you will actually learn how to use both of them together. So we are going to create some full stack projects using a DSA concept in every video. So in the last video, I used binary search tree to create a full stack full stack project. And in this video, I'm going to use a hash map. So hash map, I'm not going to directly use, I'm going to use Redis, which actually works on the hash map data structure concept. So in this video, you're learning a lot of things. You're learning Redis, you're learning HashMap, you're learning NextJS, you're learning NodeJS, right? So 4 things you're going to learn in this video. So stay tuned. And if you want me to continue this series, then I actually need 100 likes on this video. Then only I'm going to put the next video. Okay, so great. So first of all, you need to understand the theory. And before that, let's see what we are going to build today. So we are going to build this micro URL SaaS that it takes any long URL. So if you go on LinkedIn also, and this is my LinkedIn, and if you see any of my posts, so let's say if we take this post, right? So in this post, what happened? I had put a YouTube video link, right? It was a YouTube long video link, but what LinkedIn did, it converted that long link into a LinkedIn small link. And in this also, you will see that the first prefix is LinkedIn itself, LinkedIn.in. So this is going to remain the same in every shortened URL from LinkedIn. Only the last few digits or last few characters are changing. So that is called your short URL ID. So our purpose of this video is to generate this short URL ID for every long URL. Okay, so that short URL can be generated in many ways. It can be a random number, 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be alphanumeric digits, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to explore some of the concepts, some of the ways of how to generate this short URL ID, and we are going to pick the best possible encoding technique, right? And many startups, many companies like LinkedIn and other companies also which work and they provide this short URL shortening service like tinyurl or bitly, they are also using this encoding technique, right? Great. So this is our project. So if I put any long URL, okay, so if I just copy this URL, which is a very long URL, and if I put in my SaaS, which you can see this is a very long URL, and if I click on short URL, you can see it has generated 1 character. Now you will see that, hey Akshay, are you just generating a random A to Z or 0 to 9 character? No, it's not like that. This character is a base 62 encoded string of a random number that is generated by Redis. I know I may sound confusing to you right now, but as we progress, you'll find out that this is not just a random number. This is a base 62 encoded number, right? So whenever I'm going to put a unique link into my system, it is not going to return the same character anytime, right? And if I get over with it, let's say all the 0 to 9 are generated, A to Z small are generated, A to Z capital are generated, then automatically it is going to find out a way of generated more unique strings, right? How that works, we are going to understand base 62 encoding technique also. Okay, so don't worry about that. Now if I put A over here, which is my short URL ID, it gives me back my long URL. Don't worry about the overflow, we can figure it out. Okay, but the purpose of this video is to create a simple web app which takes a long URL, generates a short URL, takes a short URL ID and generates a long URL ID. It might look similar, it might look very easy, right? But at the back end, what we have a NodeJS service which is running and we have a base 62 encoding technique service helper function running. Then we also have Redis running. You can see that Redis is also running in my system. So if I just say Redis get all URL, so you can see all the URLs that I generated till now are there in my system. So right, so just now we generated this URL. So it is having the short URL ID as A, and this is the long URL, corresponding long URL, right? So this is a key and this is a value. So as you know that in hash maps, or if you don't know, that is totally fine. We're going to learn right now that how hash map works and how it is different from a normal array, right? So let's get into that. Let's clear the theoretical part first, and then let's move on to the implementation First of all, we are going to create a Node.js server. Then we are going to create a NextJS server, NextJS web app, right? And before all of that also, we are also going to learn how to install Redis in your system and how to start a Redis server in your system, right? So just now, which you saw, which is this, is a Redis server, Redis CLI, which is running in my system, Windows machine. Okay, great. Now, first of all, you know about data structures, right? You know what is a array data structure, right? In array data structure, what happens? Your data is indexed. Your data, whenever I add or insert a new data, it adds in a particular order, right? So if I had added 8, first of all, in my system, in my array, this was added like this. But when I added a new data in my system, let's say 5, it was added just after that. And when I added a new data in my array, let's say A, it was added just after that. So you can see that whenever I insert or add a new data, yes, it can be inserted in a particular index also, but by default, it appends it to the end of the array, right? So kind of, and whenever we have a lot of data, let's say we have this V, or we have another element, let's say 4, okay? So you can see that it is following a particular order, right? If we even insert a new character over here, but still it is following an order because every character that I just added is at a particular index. So this is at index 0. Similarly, 5 is at index 1. So this is an index based data structure, right? Every element of my data structure, you can see, is having a corresponding index to it. But this is not the case in a hash map. And why do we even use a hash map when we have this array, right? What is the significance? So if I have to search a element in my array, let's say I have to search V, I have to go through them one by one, right? I have to go through 8, 5, A, and then I'll be having my V. So the average time complexity of searching in an array or inserting in an array or deleting an element from an array is big O of N. You know this, right? Big O of N. This is the average time complexity for insertion, deletion, update function in an array. So this is the average time complexity. But average time complexity to do the same thing using a hash map is just big O of 1. And this big O of N is only the worst case time complexity in hash map. Why? How? Let's figure out that. So now you are clear with array, right? Now you also need to know that array is a linear data structure. Okay, just keep this in mind. Now let's just focus on hash map. So what happens in a hash map? We have a hash map table, right? What we have a hash map table, and hash map, the word hash map is actually used in Java. In Python, we know this data structure by the word dictionary, right? And in many other languages, we have we call these data structure as key value pair data structure, or map, or hash map, or dictionary, right? So don't get confused with the names. Every language can have its own name for a data structure, right? But the underlying concept is key value pair, right? So what happens in a hash map? You define a short key, or not a short key, but you define a key and you define a value, right? So we can say that over here we have a key, and over here on the right hand side we have a value. And how do we have the time complexity, average time complexity of big O of 1? I'll be just teaching you that, right? So key and value. So let's say I need to store certain data. Let's say these URLs itself. So you know that every short URL that I have is having its corresponding long URL, right? So in my system, I'll have a short URL ID, right? I don't need to store all of this micro url.com because that is going to remain constant. I only need to store my end encoded string, right? That is my short URL. So let's say for A, I have my long URL, https linkedin.com or anything, a very long URL I have, right? So this is my value, which is a very, very long link. So this is a key and this is a value. Similarly, I can have another key, right? Now, once my 0 to 9 are over, once my small lowercase a to z are over, capital A to z are over, it is going to start generating, it can start generating like this, maybe like F6G, GG, right? This can also be a short key, and it can be generated using base 62, the algorithm that we are going to see very soon, right? So this is the key. Like in LinkedIn, we have this DRG. This can also be generated using base 62, right? Algorithm. So don't worry about that. Let's say this is the key. Now this will also have another long URL value. So you can see that in a hash map table, we have key value pairs, right? Like in Redis also uses this HashMap data structure. You can see we have key value pairs. This is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, and this is the value, this is the key, and this is the value. So it stores in the key value pair, right? So what is the advantage that we get is, like whenever we need to search something, right? Instead of going through them one by one, because array was like a linear data structure and it was an index data structure, you had to go one by one, right? So over here, you don't need to go through them one by one. You can directly go to that particular key and get the value for it, right? Whenever you need to insert there in the array, what you have to do, you have to either go to that index. So either one by one, in the worst case, it will be big of n. But if you had to append, you had to go to the end and insert the element. So it was big of n, right? Insertion also. But over here, why will you go through the previous keys, right? You will directly add a key, right? You will directly add the key and you will directly add the value, right? And this is also not an ordered data structure. Don't think that if I add a new short URL, it is going to be added just after that. No, it can be added anywhere. It can be added here, 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 anywhere in the memory, right? We have a memory, and over here, whatever memory location will be free, it will be allocated, just like linked list, right? So don't think that it will be added in a particular order. So we don't need to follow an order. That's why it is not having a big time complexity of big of n. The average time complexity of a hash map for insertion, deletion, updation is just big of 1, because I can directly go to that key and do my task. The worst case time complexity becomes big of n. Why? Because collisions can happen. Because we are using base 62, but let's say you are using a random generator, because a random generator can generate the same key again, and you cannot add the same key again to your hash table. You always need to add a unique link, a unique key to your hash map table, right? So in that case, that situation is called collision, where you already have a key and you're trying to add the key with the same value, with the same key, right? Key name. So in that case, collision will happen. And again, you have to generate a random short URL, right? So in that case, you might have to iterate again and again and again, right? And in a worst case, it can happen that it is always generating the same key. So in that case, your time complexity will become more complex and it will become big of n. But average is big of 1. Okay. So this is how we have a better data structure for insertion, deletion, updation. And in wherever we need to store some key value pairs, where one key has some value and every value has a certain key, there we can use a hash map table. Okay. Why do we need Redis? Because this hash map key value pair, every programming language is providing, and we can also store this key value in our programming language code itself, right? As a global variable. No, you need persistence, because if your code is switched off, let's say your server is switched off and you switch it on again, then all of your key value pairs are gone. They are missing. Suddenly LinkedIn will stop working if they do like that. So you need persistence of data, right? For that, we need a Redis, a global kind of service, a server that is running independent of your backend server, right? And this stores your key value pairs, and Redis will never go down, right? So you need persistence. Then you need scalability. If you try to, let's say LinkedIn must be storing a billion of short URL IDs in their system, right? If you try to store them in your NodeJS server itself, your server will crash. It will go out of memory, right? So that's why you need scalability, right? Redis servers are highly scalable. You need performance. You cannot, like if you store it in your Node.js server, your system will become very slow. But Redis servers are very fast, right? Because they store the data in cache, right? So that's why you need Redis. Then you need concurrency. If your system is like highly scalable and you are trying to, if your write throughput is very high, let's say you are storing millions of short IDs in just one instance, then your server will crash, right? Because it might not be able to handle concurrency. But Redis servers are highly concurrent, right? You can handle like millions of write at a particular instance also. So they're highly concurrent, right? So that's why, and Redis also has time to expire. Let's say you want this short URL to expire after 1 year or 5 years. Redis can do that. Redis has expiration period. You can define the expiration period for this short URL, and it will that key will automatically expire, right? So this is the significance of Redis. So Redis, in just simple terms, is a key value paired data structure or database. It stores the data in cache. That's why it is like super fast. And this is the significance of a HashMap data structure, right? Now let's go ahead and create our basic service where we are going to use or understand this encode base62 algorithm, right? So you can have many algorithms, right, for generating the short key. So for this project, our main purpose or main funda is to create this short key, right? Short key. If you have a short key, then you can showcase this long URL in the form of a short key, short URL. So one is random generator, that every time whenever a long URL comes, you generate a random short URL. It can be 1, it can be 1000, it can be anything. But in this case, collisions can happen and this system is not scalable, right? Next case is that you are using a distributed service. Let's say you are having multiple servers, right? You have 1 server, you have 2 server, you have 3 server. So in that case also, this service random generator will not fail, because all the 3 services might be connected to Redis, might be connected to your clients. And if every server generates the same random number, then your service will fail because Redis cannot have the same key, right? So in that case also, this algorithm will fail, random generation will fail. So you need a deterministic approach where you can use hashing. Hashing algorithm, what it does is, Redis also has a integer counter, right? So what happens, you bring the long URL, right? Whenever a long URL comes, Redis maintains a incremental value, right? It maintains a global value, let's say it starts from 1, and every time a long URL comes, it increments this by 2, 3, then 4, then 5, right? So every time it increments it by 1. So every time you have a unique number, right? Now what you do, you get this number from Redis. Let's say Redis has given you this number every time you have a new long URL. Now you take this number and you pass this number from a hashing algorithm, right? Hashing algo, right? This hashing algo can be base62, it can be any algorithm, right? In this video, we're going to focus on base62. So this hashing algorithm takes a number and it gives you a short URL ID. Every time this short URL ID will be unique, and every time, because this number is unique, so every time the short URL ID will always be unique. So now you have got a short URL ID. Now that short URL ID you can append behind your domain name, microurl.com / your short URL ID, just like LinkedIn, linkedin.in / your short URL ID. So the main purpose was to create a short URL ID, and that we have generated. So this hashing algorithm, for this video, we are going to use base62. Many big companies are using this base62. You don't need to worry about the like whether this algorithm is correct or wrong, or like it is good one or not, right? You don't have to worry about that. This is a very famous encoding algorithm, right? Okay, great. Now I think we can go ahead and create our server. So let's go ahead and start writing our Node.js code. So before we go and write down any development code in JavaScript related to Node.js or NextJS, we need the Redis server installed in our Windows machine or any machine, and it should be running. The server should be running, right? So for that, if you're on Linux, the process is very easy. You can just just copy these commands and paste in your terminal and it will be installed. For Mac also, it is super simple. You can directly install Redis using brew install Redis, and you can just type Redis server and it will be running. But for Windows, the process is a bit tricky. So I'm going to show off the Windows. So first of all, don't follow this official process. You can follow, but this is a bit complex one. So instead of that, you can directly install this Redis Windows MSI GitHub, right? So go to the first one, releases, and over here you're going to get the Redis MSI. You can also install the zip version, but follow the MSI version because it is also going to show you the steps using a GUI. So you can see that within a minute it is installed. Sorry, it is downloaded. And now you can just click on it and you can see the GUI is there for installing the Redis in your Windows machine. So click on next, accept the terms, next, and let the location be as it is. And you can say, you can either check mark this so that it adds the path in the environment variable, but let's do it manually so that you also know if it doesn't come up in your machine. So the port by default, as you know, 6379 is the port for Redis to run. So let it be. And next, let the memory be as it is. Don't touch this, and click on install. So you can see there is a process going on that is installing the Redis on my Windows machine. So let's wait and let's see what happens. So you can see the process is done. Let's click on finish. Now if I open my command prompt and if I say Redis -server, you can see that it is not able to recognize because a path is not added in my environment variables. So I'll go in my PC, and over here I'm going to go in program files, and I'm going to detect Redis, which is over here. And you can see this is the path for the Redis in my system. You can copy this and open environment variables, and over here if you see the path, where it is, let's see, yeah, there is a path. So click on this path and click on edit and add a new path over here, paste that path and click on OK, and OK. Now if you do this again, it is not going to work because we need to again open the command prompt. The previous one is not going to work. So open command prompt, and if I type Redis server, you can see the Redis server is switched on and it is running. Instead of doing all of this, you could have also done this. If you again go to program files and go to Redis, you're going to find Redis CLI.executable, and you're also going to find Redis server.exe executable. So if you double click on the Redis server, I think there is some issue, it's not running. So if I run as administrator, okay, there is some issue, it is not running directly from here, but as you can see, it is running through the command prompt, and we followed the process of adding in the environment variable. So this process is running, and this is running perfectly. Now the next thing that I need to do is I need to start the Redis CLI. So let's open Redis CLI, and let's open a new command prompt so that this one stays as it is. So I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to open a new command prompt and let this one be over here, and let's type Redis CLI this time. So you can see the Redis CLI is working, it is switched on, and it is running on port 6379, which is the default port for Redis. And over here if I say set, so you can see that it also gives me some suggestions. So set key, you have to, as you know that Redis works on the data structure which works on key value pairs. So you need to define your key. So define your key. So set name and define your value. So let's say the value is Akshat. So this is going to set my variable name Akshat in my Redis server. So if I hit enter, you can see it says okay, that means my variable is set, my key is set with this value. Now if I want to get this key, so just say get name, you can see Akshat, right? And if I say ping, it is going to say pong. That means this is also used to check whether my server is running perfectly or not. And if this does not return with pong, that means your server is not running and there is some issue. But you can see our variables are also getting saved, and ping is also giving me pong. So my Redis is installed perfectly on my Windows machine. I hope in your system also Redis is running perfectly. And as soon as you're done with this, now we can go ahead and create our server. Now let's go ahead and start creating our NodeJS server, which is going to take a long URL and it converts into a short URL. Okay, and we saw that Redis is also running in my system. Okay, so that's a very important step. Now let me create another project folder in my DSA dev project. So you know that in the last video we created a BST, that is binary search tree project, and we created a file search system. So if you have not watched that video, do watch it. So now let's create another project. This is called HashMap, because the main data structure that we're focusing in this video is HashMap. Redis URL shorten. Okay, so this is my project folder. And inside that, I'm going to have two folders, server and client. So let's create server. And in this server, I'm going to create one file called index.js. Index.js. If you want me to follow any other language like TypeScript, Go, or Python in this series, you can let me know. I'll be happy to do it. So in this index.js, but before that, let's create a services folder in my server, services. And in this services, you need to create a helper function, which is going to take a number and it converts that number into base 62 encoded string. Okay, because we are using base 62 encoded strings as the short URL key, right? As we just saw in the theoretical part. Okay, so base 62 encoding helper or service.js. So basically this is a normal function, right? It's not a rocket science, normal function which converts a number into base 62. So base 62 and it takes a number. Let me disable my I need this, so I'll take the suggestion of Copilot of this, and then I am going to disable my Copilot so that we focus on learning instead of directly getting the code. So I'm going to take a number, and this is a base 62 that you can see. So let me take it and let me remove this. I just need this part. So basically it takes in account 0 to 9, then all the lowercase characters and all the uppercase characters. So basically the funda is that it does not account for all the special characters which we do not want in our short URL key. It only takes the ASCII characters from 0 to 9, then lowercase ABCD and uppercase ABCD. Okay, perfect. Now what we need to do is, okay, now let me disable my Copilot. Okay, great. So these are my characters. Okay, these are the characters which are allowed in my base 62 encoded string. So these are the characters. Now I need the result. Let's say it is empty for now. Okay. The next thing that we need is we are going to run a while loop while number is greater than 0. So this is a function that you need to write to encode a number into a base 62 encoded string. Okay. So while my number is greater than 0, that means I'm going to take that number and that number is going to act as an index for these characters, right? So what I'm going to do, my result is equal to characters at number mod 62. So let's say the number is 9, okay, or let's say the number is 10. Okay, so 10 mod 62 is 10 itself. So it is going to go and find out the character which lies at index 10 for this characters list. So it is 9. So 9 will be taken and 9 will be added to the previous result. And 9 is not a number, 9 is a string. You can see it's a character. Okay, so it is going to append my result with this number. Okay, or with this character that I've got. So this is my new result. Now again, what it is going to do, till my number is greater than 0, it is going to do this task. And at the end, when my number will be lower than 0 or it is equal to 0, it is going to stop. And just after getting the new result, I also need to update my number. So number is equal to mat.floor. Every time I'm going to divide the number by 62. So whatever quotient I'm going to get, that will be my new number. Okay. So as soon as this is done, you can come out of the loop and you can return encoded, which is my result encoded string. If it is there, then result. But if this result is not there because of some issue, then you can directly return 0. Okay. So this is my helper function for encoding any number to a unique string using base 62 encoding. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and start writing our index.js file. But in this index.js file, which is our main entry point for our server, we'll also need some of the packages like Express and Cors, right? So let's open terminal, and I can also create one file inside this server folder, which will be package.json. And in this package.json, just write an empty curly bracket so that this file is initialized. And now in my terminal, in this server folder, I'm going to write down npm install express and cors. So these are the two things that I need in my project. Now let's go to index.js. So let's go to index, and you can see there are a lot of GitHub changes also. So because it is also taking node modules into account, that it has to push node modules, but that we don't want, right? So in my project folder, I'm going to create a new file dot git ignore and write down node modules over here. So it is going to ignore the node modules. Okay, you can see node modules are ignored. Perfect. Now in index.js, what you can do, you can start importing some of the packages like Express from Express, and then we are also going to import cores from cores. And now let's define a simple Express application. So constant app is equal to Express, and you can define some of the middlewares like app.use cores and app.use express.json, so that it is able to return this JSON responses and accept JSON responses. Okay, great. Express.json. Now you can say app.listen on port 3001. Okay, 3001, and then it will be like this, a function which is going to say console.log backend is running. Okay, so let's define like this, format document, save it, and then over here I also need to do one thing. In my package.json, I need to define this package as module. So type module. Okay, command S. So to run this index.js, you just need to type node index.js. Node index.js. Okay, so there is some issue. Request module is not found. Okay, you can remove this, and you can also remove this. Let's format, save, and you can type index.js, node index.js. You can see the backend is running. So you can see the backend is running. So our backend is now running. Now we need to create some routes in this backend. So let's do that. So before this, before app.listen, we need to define our routes. So this is going to be a post route because we need to shorten a URL, and for shortening a URL, you need to pass the long URL, right? So this route, which I'm writing right now, is for shorten a long URL. So app.post, and this route will be at shorten, and over here I'm going to define an async function which is going to take a request, it is going to take a response, and it is going to do some task and is going to return some response. And you can also define it like this. Okay, great. Now the next thing that I need to do is I need to see whether the original URL is passed in my body or not. So constant original URL start body. So if my original URL is not passed, then I'm going to return a response.json, and I can say status is false, and my error is please pass the long URL. Okay, great. Format, and if my long URL was passed, like right, so if my long URL was passed, then I'm going to write a try catch block. Now we have the original URL and we need a shortened URL, right? So we are going to use the helper function, but you can see that the helper function needs a number. So from where does this number come from? So this number is going to come from the Redis itself. So Redis has, we can maintain a key in the Redis, and that key we can increment every time we are generating a new shortened URL, right? So say constant ID, which is a new ID that we are trying to get. Now for the ID, as you know that ID we are going to get from the Redis, but for that we need to initialize a Redis client. So open your terminal again, and let me clear this up. You can type npm install Redis. Okay, so it is installed. Now you need to import a function from Redis package that is going to be import create client. Yeah, that's it. Create client from, okay, not this, create client from Redis. Perfect. So as soon as our app is initialized, we also need to initialize our Redis. Initialize Redis. Okay. So for initializing Redis, you need to say constant Redis client with, so use the create client function, and over here you need to define your URL. So URL, as we know that our Redis is running on localhost 6379 port, so you can just say Redis localhost port 6379. Okay, and just after that you need to say Redis client dot on connect. As soon as your Redis client is connected, you can log a function, log a statement, sorry. So log Redis is connected. Okay, and Redis client dot on error console.log Redis connection failed. Okay, so by this our Redis will also be installed in our system. Okay, and just below that we also need to trigger the connect, right? So these are just the callbacks, right? We also need to trigger the connect. So what we can say, async, and let's define a function which will have a try catch block. In the console.log, I'm going to just log the error, and in the try I'm going to trigger the Redis connect. So await Redis client dot connect. Okay, now we are done with Redis connection. Now over here where we need to create a new ID, where it is, if not, yes, over here, constant ID. Okay, so over here what I need to do is I need to go to my Redis client, await Redis client dot increment a global counter, and it is going to increment a global counter, plus it is also going to give that incremented counter to me. Okay, perfect. And then you can say constant short URL is equal to encode base 62, pass the ID. Okay, save it, and then await Redis client dot hset, and you are going to say URLs short URL, this is the key, and then your original URL. Okay, so it is going to just return me a short URL ID. This is still not a URL. The return statement that I'm going to get from the global counter and this encode base 62 is just an ID. So it is short URL ID. The first part, as you know, like in tinyurl, what happens? tinyurl.com / a unique ID. In LinkedIn, what happens? linkedin.com / a unique ID, right? In Bitly, what happens? bitly.com / a unique ID. So that unique ID we are going to get from here, right? But the prefix part, that is Bitly, LinkedIn, that depends on your company, right? Let's say you are creating a company called microURL. So you have to buy microurl.com domain and / this short URL ID. Got it? So I hope I'm clear. Now, short URL ID, this will become. So this is just saving my short URL ID as the key in my Redis table, and it is going to store the original URL as the value of the short URL ID. Okay, great. Now after that, I can just return response.json, and the status is true. and in my message or in my data, I'm going to receive the short URL ID. Okay, now save it. So in real case, if you're building this as a production project and you're building it for a company, then just between these two, you need to also attach your main domain name / short URL ID. That will become your short URL, and then you can return that. But for our case, because we don't have a domain name, we are going to just work with IDs, not a URLs. Okay, perfect. Now in the console dot in the catch, I can just say console.log error, and I can return status as false and error as error. Okay, great. So this is running and this is all good. So I think we are all set, and we can just try to see if we get a short URL when we run this thing or not. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now let's go ahead and hit the API call. So I'm going to use Thunder Client, which is just a VS Code extension to make API calls. So just go on Thunder Client extension and click on new request. And this request is going to be a post call because I need to pass my original URL. So let me go on LinkedIn. And take my profile itself. So this is my profile. Let me copy this URL and let's try to shorten this URL. Okay, so my API endpoint is going to start from http localhost 3000 / short URL, and I need to pass a body in this. So this body will have original URL, and I can pass the original URL as this URL. Okay, the next thing that I need to do is I can just hit send, but I need to switch on my server also. So I'll just switch on my server. Everything is saved. Yes. So now you can just say nodeindex.js. So yes, nodeindex.js, and hit enter. You can see backend is running. Now if I hit the API call, let's see what happens. So if I hit the API call, you can see connection was refused by the server. What is the issue? So let's see. Backend is running, localhost 3000. We are also using CORS, so this should not be an issue. So localhost app express app we are using, express.json, Redis client, backend is also running on. Okay, 3001 it is. Okay, my bad. So let's go back to our API call. Let's make it 3001, save it and hit send. So there is an error, 404. Did we write the wrong URL? Yes, it is shortened. Again, one silly mistake. So let's try to make it correct and hit send. Status is false. The issue is please pass the long URL. Okay. Again, did we make a mistake in the body? So you can see even the small mistakes can actually spoil everything. Original, okay, spelling is wrong over here itself. Original URL, and let's correct this one. And let's correct this one. Save it, and you can again hit nodeindex.js. Backend is running. Let's go to API call. Let's hit send, and there is some issue. Okay, now we have got the real error. Client is closed. Redis client is closed. Okay, and we had also not got if my Redis was running or not. So that is also another mistake. So my Redis is not getting started. Redis client is not getting started. So what is the issue? Let's try to debug that. Create client Redis client, create client. So this is a client that we created, Redis client.onConnect on error, and then we also started this. So let's try to do one thing. Let's remove it from here and let's paste it at the bottom itself as soon as my backend is running. Okay, and this can be an async function format. Let's save it, and we can remove this part. And if anything goes wrong, so let's try to make this under try catch, try this, and then you can console.log error. Okay, save it. Now let's see what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. Clear node index.js. Redis is connected and backend is. Now we have got the correct statement. Redis is connected and then the backend is running. Perfect. Now let's go ahead on this one, our API call, hit send, and we have got something, some issue. Encode base62 is not defined. Okay, let's go back to our index.js. So I'm not going to cut this part. I'm going to show all the errors that I'm getting so that you can also see that I can also get errors and I need to debug it, right? It's not like that you only get errors. So the issue is I have not imported my encode base62 function. Okay, so this is the function and I need to import it. And for importing it, I need to also export it from here. So export this function. Okay, now you can go to index.js and you can import encode base62 from here, and you can also make it .js. Perfect. So now if we shut it down and hit node index.js, now if we go back to the request and if we try to hit send, so you can see status is true and we have got a data just 2. So data we have got is 2. So this is the ID that we have got. Okay, not an issue. Just to confirm if this is right or wrong, let's first of all see if this got saved in our Redis or not, right? So you can see my Redis is running over here. So just to check if everything was right, I'm going to say first of all ping. So yeah, pong. So my server is running, right? And just to get all the URLs from my Redis table, I can say get all URLs, because in URLs only we were saving all our URLs. So you can see that this is my key and this is my long URL. So I think this is all correct, but just to be sure, what I'm going to do for the next time is I'm going to also see what was the ID that got generated. Okay, so in my index.js, I'm also going to log the ID, console.log ID, and I'm also going to log this short URL ID, console.log short URL ID. And let's go inside the function, and over here while number is greater than 0, for every iteration, let's also log the new number, console.log new number is equal to, and let's just say number. Okay, format number. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, let's close this. Let's say node index.js, backend is running. Now if I go back to my call, now I'm going to go on my LinkedIn and I'm going to pick any of my post. So let's pick this post and let's copy the URL. Now let's go back, and over here let's just replace this URL with that URL, right? And let's hit send. Okay, so the backend is running. The number that was generated was 3, and the new number was 3 because it is like it is already smaller than this one. It is already greater than 0, so it is go inside this, and 3 mod 62 is always going to remain 62, and divide will become 0 because mat.floor we are doing. So that's why in one iteration itself this will be done. So if you're expecting that you're going to get some long short URL IDs, that you're going to get once you have got enough URLs, right? But for at least like let's say a few hundreds, you are not going to get a very long URL, right? Because it is going to start with the single digits itself, right? So once you have got once you have saved like thousands of URLs, then you will start getting like this as a short URL, or this as a short URL, or this as a short URL, right? Because as soon as your numbers are going to increase, your URLs are going to increase in your system, then only it will start incrementing the length of your short URL IDs. Okay, so you need to understand that. So don't worry, this is all correct. We have just verified now. Now let's go back to Redis and let's hit get all URLs. And you can see this is a newly added URL in our system. 3 is the key, and this is my long URL. 2 was the key, and this is my new URL. If you only want to get all the keys in our Redis system, then what you can do, you can hit h keys URLs, And you can see we only have two short URL IDs, that is 3 and 2. Okay, so this is right. This is all good. So we are able to create a short URL. So for this one, so if this is your short URL ID, this is which is 2, which is a short URL ID for this, your short URL ID is going to look like this. So what you can do, you can pick your domain name. Let's say you bought HTTPS Akshit micro URL.com. Let's say you bought this, right? microurl.com. Then you're going to go ahead, take the short URL ID and just append it like this. So if any of your users are going to hit this URL, you are going to fetch this one, which the API which I'm going to create right now. You will be fetching this short URL ID, and you will be fetching the long URL ID from a Redis database, so that for 2 you will get this, and you will redirect the user from microurl.com/2 to this URL. Okay, so that's how you store a long form URL into a short form URL. Okay, perfect. Now let's write the API call for this one. Like if you hit this get call to this API endpoint, then you need to pass the user from this URL to the long form URL. So you're just going to return the long form URL. That's it. Okay, so let's do that. In real case, you can also redirect the user. So that is your homework. So if you want to know how to redirect a user, how to redirect a user status code. Okay, so basically for redirecting a user from one status code from one URL to another URL, you can actually use a status code with 3xx. So your response is going to have this status code, and you will also define your new URL, right? So automatically the user will be redirected to a new URL instead of you doing something, right? So this is also a case. So you need to study about this, and you can implement this as your homework. Okay, perfect. But in our case, let's just write a simple get call. So let's just save it. And over here, this was a post call for shorten, and let's write another API call for get a long URL from short URL. Okay, so app.get, and this is going to be your short URL ID. So you're going to pass your short URL ID, and over here async. Now we're going to write our function. So you're going to fetch the short URL ID from the query. Request dot params dot short URL ID. So this is your short URL ID. Okay, now you need to go inside Redis client and get the long form URL for the short URL ID. So write constant original URL is equal to await Redis client dot h get, right? Define your collection name, so which is URLs, and pass your short URL ID, and this is going to return your original URL. Okay, so return response.json, status is true, status is going to be true, and your data is going to be your long original URL. Okay, so let's hit format, and let's go ahead and switch it off, then switch it on. Okay, now backend is running. Now what we need to do, we need to go ahead in our Thunder client and create a new request. Again, this is going to be get call, and say http localhost 3001 / your short URL. So let's say 2, right? So just in your real production code, you're just going to replace this one with your own domain name. Let's hit save, let's hit send, and there is an error. Okay, so let's try to solve this error. So what is the issue? Request.params.short. Okay, so one mistake I did in index.js, this one. So this is going to be request from a response. Perfect. Now it is running correctly. It should run correctly. Let's see what happens. Go back to your API call. Let's hit send, and we got 200. And you see we have got our original URL back. Now if I try to hit 3, save it, send, you see we have got our long URL back. Okay, so instead of 200, you have to just return a status code which it redirects from one URL to another URL, and this is your homework, where you automatically the user, if I click on this URL, automatically the user should be redirected to this URL. Okay, so that's your homework. So this is our backend. Now we have completed our backend code. Now all we need to do is writing the client side code. So you can see how beautifully we use the HashMap data structure concept using Redis. We also learned Redis. We also learned how key value pair data structures work. We also learned some backend, and now we're going to learn client side. So this is the purpose of making these videos, that you learn full stack development with data structure concepts. So till here, if you're liking this video and if you have created this till here, you just take a screenshot of this and post a LinkedIn post, and you can tag me that, hey Akshit, I'm following your tutorial and I'm really learning a lot, so that I also get motivated, and I also get that you people watch it and you also follow it, not just blindly watching it, right? So great. Now let's just go ahead and create a client. So now let's create a NextJS app in our project folder. So let's say I don't remember the command to create a new NextJS app. So let's just find it out. Create NextJS app command. So it is create next app. Okay, let's go inside this. npx create next app. Okay, let's just copy this. Now in my terminal, I'm going to open a new terminal, let the backend run on this previous terminal. Now let's go inside HashMap Redis URL shorten folder. Great. And let's create a client inside this. So let's paste it, npx create next app at latest, and it's going to ask me okay to proceed. Yes. What is the name of my project? It is client. TypeScript. We are going to use TypeScript, or we are going to use JavaScript? Let's use TypeScript. Okay. ESLint, yes. Tailwind CSS, yes. Source directory, yes. App router, yes. Turbo pack, yes. And import alias, no. Okay, great. And it is going to generate a client app for me in my HashMap Redis project folder. Okay. So you can see that client folder is created, and it is initializing it. So let's just wait and let it do all of that stuff. Okay, so our NextJS app is ready. Now if we can go inside client, cd client, and we can directly run npm run dev, and my NextJS app should be running on port 3000. Okay, so I've just kept the NextJS window alongside my code so that you can also see whatever changes we are making. So I'm going to remove all of this. Let's code everything from the scratch, and let's create a main div tag, and let's give it some styling. So this is going to be my background. So let's have a class name, and in this class name I'm going to have some Tailwind CSS styling. So minimum edge screen, and it is going to be dark background, so gray background gray 900, text gray 100, because the text should be white, because if my background is black. Flex column, items center, then justify center, and give the padding as 4, so p4. Okay, so let's just format it. So this is my main div tag. Now in this div tag I will have another h1 tag, so one h1, which is the heading of my app. So the heading I'm going to keep as welcome to micro, this is the name of my company, micro URL SaaS. Okay, micro URL SaaS. Let's put a emoji also. Okay, let's give it some styling. Class name, text 3XL, font bold, margin from the bottom as, let's say 8, and also give it a serif font style. Okay, format it, save it, and you can see welcome to micro URL SaaS. This is all good. Now after that, let's create a comment, and let's say generate a new short URL. So over here I'm going to get a place. So let's create a new div tag where I'm going to enter my long URL, and I'll receive my short URL. Okay. Now in this, it is also going to have some stylings. Let's give it some styling. So w width will be full, max width on medium will be like this, and background gray 800 and rounded large LG, and padding is 6 and margin from the bottom also 6. Okay, now in this division tag I'm going to have another heading which will say generate short URL, and let's give it some styling. Class name text Excel, font semi bold, margin from the bottom as 4. Okay, generate short URL, perfect. Now after that I'll have my input tag. So my input tag type is going to be definitely text. Placeholder, I need to define my placeholder. Placeholder will be enter your long URL, and after that I'm going to have a value. So value I'm going to define just at the top right now, and let's call it as long URL. On change, what happens when I when I type something? So it is going to change the input, right? So defined like this, whatever I'm typing, that will become my E, that is element. Set long URL. So this is a function which I'm going to type in a bit. Long URL e.target.value. So it is going to set my long URL variable with this new value that I entered, right? And now let's give it some styling and we'll be done. Class name, it will be again w full, take the complete width, w full, background blue 600, not blue, let's give it some padding first, and let's give it some roundness, and let's give it gray color itself, gray 700. Text color inside it will be text gray 200, and I think this is good. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, let's just create some variables at the top. Okay, so let's just create some variables. So first variable will definitely is going to store my long URL which I'm typing. So constant long URL set long URL. This is the function or the hook, right? Now use state function, and by default it will be empty. Okay, so this is like constant long URL, set a long URL, use state. So let's import use state. Okay, great. The next thing is going to store my short URL. So constant short URL set short URL, and this will again is going to store an empty string for now. Yes, like this. Okay. The next thing is my function, which is going to be generate short URL, and the function will be set short URL, generate short URL basically. Yeah. So basically this is not a function, this is a variable itself, and this is going to store my generated short URL. Okay. Set generated short URL. Okay. And let's call this also generated, and this will again be use state empty, because initially it is going to be empty itself, and then it will be a retrieved long URL. So constant retrieved long URL set retrieved long URL use state, and this is also going to be empty for now. So let's make the R as capital. Great. And if anything goes wrong, so constant error, set error, right? Set error, and this will be use state. Okay, great. So now we have defined all our main functions. So we have just defined them. We have not coded the functions. We have not coded the methods inside them. but for now we have coded them. Okay, we have put them. So now if I just save it, okay, yes, because we are using use state, we also need to define it as a client side rendered component. So use client. Yes, so you can see I can enter my URL in this, long URL in this. Perfect, great. So we have done one thing. Now the next thing that I need to do is I need to create a button just below this. So let's create a button, and on this button there will be an on click. So what happens when I click on this button? It is going to call my handle generate short URL. What is the name did I give it to? Generate short. Okay, we have not defined it. Okay, let's just define it. Constant function handle generate. So basically this is my API call, handle generate. We can remove function from here. Export constant, yeah, handle generate short URL function. This is going to be async. Okay, great. And next function will be handle retrieve long URL. Handle retrieve long URL. Okay, so these are the two functions which are going to be my two API calls. Okay, great. On click, it will be handle generate short URL. Let's save it. Now let's give it some styling. So let's go ahead and give it some styling, class name. So in this class name, I'm going to define W will be my full and background will be blue itself. So background blue, 600, and it is also going to be rounded LG. Okay, and if I hover over it, so on hover, I want the background blue to be 700. Text is going to be white. And I think we are done. And we can also give it some padding from the y-axis as 2. Perfect. So I think this is a good button. Now let's define the text inside this button. Generate short URL. Okay. Let's give it some margin also. Margin from the top as let's say 8. Great. I think 6 is, or 4 is even good. Generate short URL. Okay, great. So this is my button for generating a short URL. Now what happens when my button brings a proper result when I've got a shortened URL, right? So I need to handle that case. So for that, I'm going to define just below this a condition if I have got the generated short URL. So if I have got the generated short URL, that means this is not null. Then I'm going to render this UI. Okay. So what this UI says, it is just a normal p tag. The p tag is going to say short URL is going to be an a tag, because this link will be clickable, and on this a tag I'm going to define my h reference will be like this, and this is going to be slash dollar tilde sign first slash dollar generated short URL. Generated what is the issue? Okay, I missed the bracket. Generated short URL, and target will be blank so that it redirects to a new tab. So target is blank. Okay, and I think we are done. We can just give it some. Okay, I think we are done. I think this is good. Short URL. Let's give it some designing. So class name. Margin from the top will be 4, and text, let's say it is green. Text green 400. So for now I don't have any generated URL, so this is fine, and I have not yet written my API call also. Okay, great. So that's why this URL is not visible. Perfect. Now the next section. So let's go below and let's create a new section which is called retrieve long URL. Okay, so retrieve long URL. So this is again going to be a div, right? And this div will also have some styling. So class name, again W full, max W medium, and background gray 800, and rounded will be LG, and padding will be 6, just like previous section. Okay, now again, inside this division I'll have a simple h2 which will say get your long URL back, get your long URL. Okay, perfect. And let's just copy the styling from the top itself. This is the styling. I'll scroll down. Okay, format, save it, and you can see get your long URL. Perfect. Okay, so this is good. Now just below that, I'm going to enter, I'm going to create a input and a button. So let's just copy the complete thing. Input button, division. Let's just make some space. Okay, great. And this will be get long URL. Okay, and this will be long URL. Okay, this is good. This is good. Generated, instead of that, it will be retrieved long URL. And instead of handle generate short URL, it will be handle retrieve long URL. And I think rest of the things are looking good. Input will be enter short URL ID, basically short URL ID. And this is going to be value will be a short URL e dot this. Yes, everything looks good to me. Enter short URL. I think the button get long URL, let's make it green. Where is the button? Let's make it red. Yes, get long URL. Oh, okay, wait, let's make it red again. Yes, this looks good. Get long URL, get short URL. Perfect. The next thing that I need to do is I need to write down my API calls. Generated short URL. Again, this is wrong. So this will be retrieved long URL. Okay, perfect. Now let's write down our API calls. So first of all, let's write down the API call for generating a short URL. So in this, try. Okay, one issue. Yes, inside this, write a try catch block. If anything goes wrong, let's just log that error. So log error, and also set error as this error. Okay, error dot to error. Okay, this takes a, okay, I think we have to define it as a string, or it can be null. Okay, type, is it type unknown? Okay, let's make it any. Yes, perfect. This is any. Great. Now in the try, I'll be having a constant response is equal to await fetch. Write down your endpoint, which is http localhost 3001 /shorten, and this is going to be a post method. So let's define a method as post, and you define your body. So let's define a body. Now in the body it will be yes, I need to okay, I think let's define it like this. The body is going to be original URL is going to be the original URL which I typed, that is long URL. Yes, this should be json.stringify. Stringify, and inside that you can paste it. So you can see this is working fine. Great. Now whatever generated short URL I'm going to get, I'll be saving it. So just below that, I can say constant data is equal to await response.json, and if response dot okay, that is if I've got a valid response. Then I'm going to say set generated short URL, and it will be data.data, right? Because in my backend, I was sending the URL in the data field. Okay, perfect. If that's not the case, then I'm going to set the error again. Set error not generated, something like this. Okay, great. So this is good. And the next thing that I need to do is I need to handle the retrieve long URL function. So for this also, let's write down try catch block, and this is going to be console.log error, and it will be set error. Okay, now in the try again, I'm going to say constant response is equal to await fetch, and this is going to be just a simple get call on http localhost 3001 slash and I can put it in tilde, just give me a minute, tilde and tilde. Okay, and the short URL ID will be over here. This is my short URL ID. Okay, great. Now again, if my response is okay, so constant data is equal to await response.json. If my response dot okay, then I'm going to say set retrieved long URL data.data. Okay, else I'm going to set my error not found. Okay, you can handle these errors, right? I'm not going to worry about that. That's your homework. Okay, great. I think we are done. I think we have written everything, whatever we had to write. Now let's just try to use it, but let's just verify our index.js. If I was returning in data, yes, data original URL, and for the short URL ID, I was returning, yes, data. Perfect. So I think we are ready. Let's just increase the terminal. Let's just increase the size. Let me go to inspect. Let me open it up like this. And let's go to network, clear it. And now let's type a long URL. So let me just copy it from here. And I think this we already used that I think that is already there in the Redis database. So let's just go ahead and take this URL. Let's go take this URL, paste it, generate short URL. So I think we have got the shortened URL. Okay, please pass the long URL. Okay, it's not able to find it. Okay, what is the issue? Let's just close this. Let's try to figure out what's the issue. Please pass the long URL. It is not able to find the long URL. Maybe because we are passing it in json.stringify. Maybe that is the case. Index.js, short URL request.body. I think make it json.parse. I think now it should be able to original. Okay, yeah, original URL. So this should also be original URL like this. Okay, it should match the exact key format. So I think now we are good to go. Yes, I think we are good to go. Okay, let's just no, not like this. We need to go on our server and node index.js. Now backend is running. Our client is also now running. Okay, client is also running. So let's just do that again. Let's just refresh and let me paste. Okay, let me bring the URL again. Let me paste it over here. Paste it over here. Generate short URL. Okay, we are not again going to get it. And we are not getting it again. So what is the issue? Let's try to generate short URL. It is still pending. Failed. Okay, what is the issue? Let's try to find it out. Payload was this original URL. This was my original URL, so that is good. We have not got a response, so we must have got some error in our console of our server. Okay, there is an issue. Is not a valid JSON. is not a valid JSON. Okay. So basically this is the correct format. Now this is working. Constant original URL is request.body.original URL. Okay. So save it. And if I go to page.tsx, you just define json.stringify original URL like this. Perfect. Now my server, it is again switched off. So I'll again run it. Yes, it is now running and my client is all good. So I can just go ahead and again try to generate a short URL. Let's see what we have got. Response. Okay, please pass the long URL. Again, it is failing. Cannot set the headers after they are sent to the client. Okay, I think if we go in index.js and in my, yes, over here, request.body.original URL request, if not this, I think, yeah, so this should come in the else part. This should be else, and this try catch block will come inside this part. And over here, yes, this is all good. Response.json format. So this is like one issue. So we had two issues. One is we were setting the headers after the request response is sent, and there was another issue, the main issue that we have not yet solved. So let's see what was the issue. So invalid argument type. Okay, add command. Okay, send command. Okay, let's see our Redis. What is there in the Redis? So we have 3 and 2. So nothing is inserted till now. Okay. So the issue was we were not passing the headers as content type as application/JSON. So this was only the issue. Rest the body will be passed like this. And if you go to index.js, you can just pass the original URL. Like pass the original URL like this, request.body at original URL. That's it. Or you can write request.body.original URL. That is also correct. Okay. Now if I try to use my web app, short URL, I think this is not getting set. So let's just set this one also, because this is going to pass it like this, request.json, response.json, status short URL ID. Okay. So if I go back to page.tsx, then over here, constant data response.json, if response.okay, set shorted URL data.data. Okay, let's just log what we get. Console.log data. Okay, let's just save it and let's just go to console, clean it and hit generate short URL. So you have got the status and you have got data 7. Okay, so I think we are getting the data. We are getting the data as 7. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I am going to go in my index.js and I'm going to return my short URL like this, HTTPS, just for demo purpose. Okay, this is not going to work. This is not a valid short URL for now. microurl.com/short URL ID like this. Okay, so this is the response that I'm going to return. Let's just run the server again. Let's go to page.tsx and this is my data. So I log data and I don't need to write data at data. That should be my response.json data at data. Okay, so this should be it. I think this should work now. We have resolved all the issues. Now if I hit generate short URL, okay, I'm getting the data, but I'm not able to see my short URL over here. I think this is a design issue. So if I go scroll down over here, generated short URL. Okay, so this is valid. Generated your short URL / this. Okay, oh shit, I did not write anything over here. So this should be generated short URL. Yes, this is right. Now similarly over here, a tag over here, it will be retrieved long URL. Okay, retrieved long URL. Now this is right. Now let's just try it out. Now everything should work fine. Okay, let me just erase it. Let me go to network, erase it, and let's just hit generate short URL. Let's take a new link. Let's take this Redis link. Let's just paste it over here. generate a short URL, and we have got microurl.com/9. And if I just pass 9, which is my short URL ID, okay, I think we are also doing one more mistake. We are not passing the correct key to our input. So instead of passing short URL to my second box, it should be long URL actually. Okay, wait. This is my short URL. Input. Okay, this is my long URL and this should be my short URL. Correct. Okay, so that is right. Okay, set short URL. Perfect. This is the mistake, and now we have solved it. So let's remove it and let's paste it here. 9. If I get the long URL, I am getting the long URL back. If I click on it, I'm also able to redirect it. Okay, so np.js. Okay, that's fine. Let's see why it's not opening up. Oh yeah, it's opening up. Okay, good. So that's it, guys. Now we have completed the web application where I can enter any long URL and it generates a short URL for me. And if I put the same short URL ID over here, I can get my long URL back. So this whole system is powered by Redis. As you know, I can again fetch all my URLs. You can see for 7, that's the last one, we got this, and for 9 it got this. So you can see these keys are not ordered, right? They are not ordered, or they are not in a particular index order. So unlike array, right? In array, anything that I add or append, it adds to the end of the list. But over here, it is not adding to the end of my list. So it's not like that 9 will always be at the end or at the top. So it's not ordered, right? So that's it, guys. I hope you liked this video. And if you want more such videos, do let me know in the comment section. So till the next video, keep coding, keep innovating, and thanks a lot.